Hi guys, welcome to Frame by Frame. Today we are diving into the movie No Time to Die. The film opens with a flashback. Young Madeleine Swann, Colleen Defoe, tends to her ailing mother, Mathilde Bourbon, while a man in a mask, Rami Malek, approaches their home. Madeleine sees the man at the window and runs to hide. The man enters the house, introduces himself to her mother as Safin, and says he is there for Mr. White, as he killed Safin's family. When Madeleine's mother can't give him an answer, Safin shoots her to death. Madeleine goes to hide under her bed where Safin goes to look for her. She shoots him and drags his body outside, but he turns out to be alive. Madeleine starts running across the icy lake until she falls through. Safin cannot bring himself to let the girl die, so he shoots the ice and pulls her out. Jump to the present, where Madeleine, now played by Léa Seydoux, is living with James Bond, Daniel Craig, in Matera, romantically. Although they are both happy together, Madeleine knows Bond still has lingering thoughts about Vesper Lynd, whom she points out is buried close to them. She encourages to let her go, doing the same with her memory of Safin by writing "masked man" in French on a piece of paper and burning it. The next morning, Bond goes to Vesper's tomb to finally forgive her. He also has a piece of paper ready to burn that says "Forgive me" on it. Before leaving, Bond sees a Spectre calling card nearby, and seconds later, the tomb explodes. Bond recovers quickly enough to start running, only for assassins, led by a man with a cybernetic eye called Primo Cyclops Dali Bensala, to go after him. Bond races back to his room on a motorcycle to get Madeleine, accusing her of having him set up since the assassins should not know where to have found him. He gets Madeleine in the Aston Martin and ends up in a high-speed chase across Matera, with Bond getting assassins to crash their vans or get shot. The villains corner Bond and Madeleine in the middle of the plaza, with her begging Bond to make a move while he sits there and lets the thugs shoot at the car. When he sees that Madeleine is telling the truth, he activates the machine gun in the car and kills nearly every assassin except for Primo. Once they are in the clear, Bond takes Madeleine to a train station where he puts her on a train and parts ways with her due to his trust in her being destroyed. She tearfully tries to catch him as the train begins to depart, but he is long gone. 5 years later, another team of assassins break into an MI6 lab. They are working under Safin, who contacts head scientist Valdo Oberchev and warns him about who is coming. The assassins take Oberchev and another scientist captive while killing the rest of the team. They are there to acquire Heracles, a deadly bioweapon that can be used as a poison through skin-to-skin contact. After getting what they want, the assassins kill the other man and take Oberchev with them. MI6 catches wind of this, with Moneypenny Naomi Harris going to talk to Ralph Fiennes about it, but he remains tight-lipped on what Heracles is and demands to know where 007 is. Bond is now retired from MI6 and living in Jamaica. He runs into Felix Leiter, Jeffrey Wright, and his colleague Logan Ash, Billy Magnuson. They go to a nightclub where Felix tells Bond about Oberchev's capture and the break into the lab. Bond has little interest in getting involved in recovering Oberchev, and he also tells Felix he has a suspicious feeling about Ash. As Bond tries to go home, he finds that his car isn't working. He is approached by a woman called Nomi, Lashana Lynch, who gives him a ride on her motorcycle. When they get back to his place, she quickly drops her facade to reveal that she is not only an agent with MI6, but also the new 007. She tells him that Oberchev is her target and for Bond to stay out of her way. M and Bill Tanner, Rory Kinnear, talk to Q, Ben Whishaw, about retrieving files stolen from the lab. Bond contacts M to ask him what he has done involving Oberchev and Spectre. M hangs up and tells Tanner he wants to get in touch with Blofeld, Christoph Waltz, who is locked up in Belmarsh and is seen talking to himself. Felix has Bond go to Cuba to meet a CIA operative named Paloma, Ana de Armas. They infiltrate a Spectre meeting where Blofeld is using a robotic eye like the one Primo uses to observe the party. Meanwhile, Oberchev is being forced to set up Heracles in the facility, but he is seen switching a vial from the device. Once Bond and Paloma realize Blofeld is up to something, the entire party turns their focus to Bond. The Heracles poison is released into the room with the intent to kill Bond while the poison doesn't affect Spectre agents. What happens is the opposite, as Spectre operatives start to grow boils on their faces before dropping dead, all while Bond and Paloma remain unaffected. The two face off against gunmen, including Primo, while Nomi shows up to apprehend Oberchev. After killing off several henchmen, Paloma gets a car and spots Oberchev trying to make a run for it. She rams the car into the structure he is climbing down, causing him and it to collapse onto the car. Bond takes Oberchev and parts ways with Paloma after she gives him a cigar for Felix, and Bond takes Oberchev away on a rickety old plane. Bond brings Oberchev to Felix's boat to meet with him and Ash. When they start to interrogate Oberchev over Heracles and why it specifically did not affect Bond, Ash grows nervous and tells Oberchev to stop talking. Oberchev says Spectre were always the main targets, so he changed the DNA sample during the poisoning to kill them instead of Bond. And he also says that M helped him create Heracles. When Bond asks how Blofeld knew he would be there, he quickly realizes Ash is a double agent working with Oberchev. During a struggle, Ash shoots Felix and gets away with Oberchev, where they blow a hole into the ship to cause it to sink. Although Bond tries to help Felix, they know his gunshot wound is too severe, and Felix resigns himself to his fate. Bond regrettably leaves his friend behind before managing to break free and escape. Bond returns to MI6 to confront M. He demands to be let into Belmarsh to speak to Blofeld, but M refuses and ends up sending Bond out after Bond pisses him off. M calls Nomi in to tell her that he wants everything in Blofeld's cell scanned, even the man himself. On his way out, Moneypenny offers to help Bond. That night, they go to Q's house as he is preparing to have dinner with his boyfriend. They ask him to take a look at the files they recovered, and when he does, they discover files on the Spectre targets, with only Blofeld remaining. There are also thousands of other files on others regarding their DNA samples all over the world. Bond tells Q to get him into Belmarsh to meet with Blofeld, but he says only one person has access to him. Cut to Madeline going to her job as a psychiatrist. She goes to her office to find Safin there, but she doesn't immediately recognize him until he presents her with his broken mask. Once she becomes frightened, he tells her that he needs her for something. Bond later meets with the whole MI6 team to be reinstated as a 00 agent. They review files over a Spectre operative's funeral, where 5 family members who came into contact with him are now dead from contracting the Heracles poison. M then explains that Heracles was not meant to be as harmful as it is now, as it was only meant to be designed for specific targets through contact over those it doesn't affect. But now it has been weaponized using nanobots to go after targets and anyone related to them. M finally approves for Bond to meet with Blofeld and find out whatever he can. Bond goes to Belmarsh and reunites with Madeline. He tries to shake her hand, but she declines. Once Blofeld is brought out to them, Madeline starts to grow nervous and tries to leave. Bond grabs her wrist, but she pulls away and leaves. Bond is left talking to Blofeld, who taunts him and says he set up attack at Vesper's tomb to deliberately make Bond believe that Madeline set him up. He taunts Bond to the point where he grabs Blofeld to physically attack him. As Tanner enters to stop Bond, they then see that Blofeld has been poisoned to death by Bond's touch. Bond learns he was infected with Heracles after touching Madeline, and he can't get it out. Madeline has fled her apartment, and nobody can find her. Bond goes after her on her own and finds her at her childhood home. To his surprise, he finds that she has a daughter, Matilda, Lisa Dorasani, although Madeleine claims she is not Bond's. After putting Matilda to bed, Madeleine informs Bond on who Safin is. Blofeld instructed Madeleine's father to kill Safin's whole family, which left him as the only survivor with facial disfigurements. She also mentions an island that Safin's family had, where his base of operations currently is. Bond gives Q info on locating Safin, and Q informs MI6 that the island is located between Japan and Russia. Nomi is looking for Ash, but Bond learns that he and Safin's other minions are close, so he gets Madeline and Matilda out of the house for safety. On the road, Safin's assassins chase after the three. Bond runs 2 off the road, but their van is also knocked off the road. Bond shoots at the assassins and sets traps for a couple others until Ash comes out to try and kill Bond himself. Bond overturns his van and causes him to crash. Ash crawls out and asks for Bond's help. In retribution for Felix's death, Bond pushes Ash's van down to crush him. He then learns that Madeline and Matilda have been abducted and taken to the island. Bond rejoins MI6, where Nomi relinquishes the 007 title to Bond as they head out to the island to stop Safin and save Madeline and Matilda. Meanwhile, the villain brings the two to his garden where other poisonous plants are developed, including the nanobots being harvested for the Heracles poison distribution. Bond and Nomi are brought to the island where they break into the facility and go after the gunman. They capture Oberchev and plan to blow the place up, although they don't have enough explosives to get the job done. After continued threats, Nomi pushes Oberchev into a pool of nanobots, where he is gruesomely dissolved. The other workers flee once they see the effects of the nanobots. Madeline manages to escape from Primo's captivity by throwing hot tea in his face. Bond finds Safin with Matilda in his captivity. When Safin threatens both her and Madeline, Bond gets on his knees and begs Safin to not hurt them if he does what he wants. But Bond then takes out a concealed pistol and kills Safin's guards, but he escapes through a hatch with Matilda. However, the little girl bites Safin, and he just lets her go. She hides until Madeline finds her. Bond runs into them and helps them get away. Primo attacks Bond, but he uses Q's gadget watch to fry Primo's cybernetic eye and make it blow up in his head, killing him. Bond then goes to open the hatch doors to allow the Royal Navy to launch missiles to destroy the facility. He succeeds and starts to make his way out until he finds that they are closing again because of Safin. Bond goes to open them again and is attacked by Safin, who shoots him and then infects him with nanobots specifically targeting Madeline and Matilda. Bond fights Safin and breaks his arm before shooting him dead. He manages to open the doors again, but he realizes he cannot leave the island without hurting Madeline and Matilda. He contacts Q, who has Nomi put Madeline on the line for him. They share a final moment together, reaffirming their love for one another, and Madeline confirms that Matilda really is Bond's daughter. He then stands as the missiles arrive, obliterating the facility and Bond himself. Everyone else realizes what has happened. Back at MI6, M, Tanner, Q, Moneypenny, and Nomi all gather for a toast to Bond's memory. Madeline drives Matilda to Matera to continue their lives. She then decides to tell Matilda the story about her father, a man named Bond, James Bond. By this, the movie ends.